I've been thinking recently about how we interact with our instruments. When you interact with traditional instruments, you kind of strum them, slap them, bow them, pluck them, and the rest is technique, whether it's a guitar, a violin, a piano, a drum. Synths, though, are different. With synths, you have to not only play the thing, but you have to make the sound first. You have to craft the sound before you can even play a single note, and that means knobs and switches and dials and screens. And all of this adds layers, which can kind of tarnish the experience of just playing the thing. I'm sure millions of us have also kind of followed down this train of thought, but one person is way further down it than the rest of us, and that person is Vlad Krimer, the founder and lead inventor, sick title, of Soma Laboratories. And he made this, the Soma Lyra 8. I'm going to try and keep the walkthrough as quick as possible because I feel almost like that's kind of the point of the instrument. Effectively, the Lyra is 8 voices. Lyra 8 is 8 voices in 4 kind of voice pairs. So you can see they're kind of grouped together here across the top panel. Each voice has a tune knob, so you can obviously tune them. The tuning is completely free and the range is enormous. There is a mod knob on each of the voices. Or voice pairs, I should say, which enables you to modulate them either against other voice pairs, the built-in LFO, or LFOs up here, the hyper LFO, which is kind of 2 LFOs that bounce off of each other, or the feedback control voltage, which is kind of just a general amalgamation of all of the feedback going on all across the board, coming, as I understand it, from the individual voices, which is sick. There is a sharp knob on each of the voice pairs, which is effectively like a tone knob would be on like an overdrive pedal or something. It's sort of like a low-pass filter all the way down. It's quite dark, and as you bring it up, things kind of get spikier and brighter. Very, very cool. It's quite good sounding. It's well-tuned. Talking of well-tuned, we've got for each of the voice quads, there is a pitch knob just here, which controls the pitch of all 4 relative to each other. So your tune knobs and everything control the pitch of the individual voices, and this kind of slides it all up and down for if you want to play a big chord and drag it down. You can play chords on this thing if you tune these to individual notes. You don't have to do that, but you can. The option is there. Obviously, it's a bit tricky, but you can get some really interesting, really cool stuff happening, especially because you're never going to get it quite in tune unless you've got the ear of a god or a tuner. Hold up here is kind of like an envelope, like a release. Same with these fast switches down here. You put it down to fast at the bottom and it will release quite quickly. You put it up and it will go for eons, which is very, very cool. Really awesome for drones and all that sort of thing. There is built-in vibrato, which you can control up there. Total feedback. When the total feedback switch is up, it actually takes the output of the Lyra and all of its effects, all of the delay and the LFO and the drive circuit up here, and routes it back as a modulation source. So you get really, really crazy things happening, especially when you've got all of these down to like feedback CV, and it all starts just becoming this kind of big, almost FM beast. It's just incredible. Hyper LFO, as I mentioned, there's 2 LFOs which you can sync or set free up here, and they kind of play off of each other in really, really interesting ways. Very cool, very different, very interesting, which kind of sums up this whole box, which is just amazing. I love it. A kind of dual delay line, I guess you would call it, modulatable delay with a built-in dedicated LFO, or it can modulate against itself, which is, again, sick. I'm going to be saying that a lot as we go through here, with a mix control and a feedback control. If you do decide to use the built-in LFO on the delay, you've got two waveforms there. I think that's a saw and a square, which is very, 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 very cool. And you can control the mod mix and the time on each of these two delay lines, as I mentioned. And then lastly, we've got a nice analog drive circuit, which you can run parallel because it's got a mix. So if it's all the way up, then obviously you get the whole signal is going through it. And if not, you can run it somewhere in between. You've got a drive knob up here and an output volume as well, which covers off the whole thing. At the back, there is an in, which is very, very cool. I have actually run other synths into this to get that delay and especially that drive circuit, which is really cool. There is CV for the delay feedback and for the notes and stuff, the voices. And there is a 3.5mm headphone jack, which is an interesting choice because you would think it would be kind of a full fat headphone jack, and a 12-volt power in along the back there as well. I feel like a lot of the controls here are deliberately very vague. The signal path in the Lyra gets really complicated really quickly, with everything feeding back off of everything else. And Vlad Krimer has said in interviews that the idea behind the Lyra is that you forget about all of that stuff and you just play. You have absolutely got to be recording every time you sit down and use the Lyra 8, because every time you switch it on, it's a little bit different. And every time you switch it on, it's magic. The amount of times I've found myself just sat with this thing on my lap and headphones on and just playing away on it, and I've found something really, really cool and not been able to find it again when I've gotten down to the studio and I've started recording and stuff, is honestly, I couldn't count on my fingers and toes. So it's just advice. If you're going to be sat there playing with it, have a little pocket recorder or just plug it straight into your DAW, all that good stuff, because it's just constantly pumping out magic and incredible sounds. As I say, it's different every time we use it, so I think the best way to show it to you is to just fire it up and have a knob tweaking sesh. Let's take the delay and the drive out of the equation just for a minute. So you can kind of see there what I mean by that pitch knob just controlling all of it, relatively speaking. The fast switch down here, so if I just dials off quickly. So it even comes back. Good opportunity there to show you what that filter sounds like there, that sharp knob. It's more of a tone control, kind of. It almost sounds like a tilt EQ. I don't think it is, but it kind of sounds like one. If I just... So as I said a second ago, with these switches here, you can control the kind of modulation source for each of these voice pairs, being careful not to touch it there and set something off. When it's all the way down, we'll tell you what, we'll start here, okay? So if I set this voice pair is now getting its modulation from voice pair 3, 4, which is obviously 3 and 4. So if I So you can hear there, what I've done now is voice pair 1 and 2 is being modulated by voice pair 3, 4, and voice pair 3 and 4 is being modulated by 1 and 2, which means you get this. Really cool. Let's just bring that, what I will show you actually, I'll show you the LFO. Let's do that. Really crazy sounds available with the LFO. But if I flick the total feedback switch here, it's now going to ignore the LFO, and what it's going to do is it's going to use its own output with all the effects and delay and stuff, which we haven't touched yet, but we will. As a modulation source, which is just awesome. I'll switch it off for a second. I did mention vibrato, so I'll just show you that. It's really lovely, that. And then we get into the really fun stuff. So let's just have a look at this mod delay. Let's just bring this up. We'll have feedback halfway, and I think we'll have the time on 1 at halfway up and the time on 2 a quarter of the way down. Just change the modulation source for the delay there to the LFO, to its own LFO. You can hear that it's quite hard, and that's because of the square setting there. So we're just going to bring it down to saw. What I really, really love about that is that you can get these really wonderful, ghostly, almost, textures. Really, really, really cool. And then lastly, we have this beautiful analog drive circuit, which I really like. So let's just, where should we go? Let's go. It's a really, really great sounding drive circuit. What I love about this is just how completely unpredictable it is. You're going to see that a lot in demos of this. I think Sonic State mentioned it as well, where it's just every time you turn it on, you don't really know what it's going to do. And that just makes it so, so, so fun to use. It is a wonderful, intuitive, almost incomprehensible thing, this. It's no surprise, really, to see them in so many artists' studios, because they are just absolute inspiration machines. Every time I pick it up, every time I switch it on, there is something new and different and exciting that you can't really get anywhere else. I genuinely didn't think that this could be done. That kind of super intuitive, almost unthinking ease of use of traditional instruments. But what I mean by that, I'm not saying, you know, you can pick up a violin and it's easy, or you could pick up an acoustic guitar and it's easy, or even a guitar and it's easy, or a cello, or whatever, your instrument, piano, whatever. But physically getting a sound out of it is pretty simple, right? You strum a guitar and it will make a noise. It might be a terrible noise, but it will make a noise. You bow a violin. Most likely, if you don't know how to do it, it's going to be a terrible noise, but it will create a noise. But with a synthesizer, normally when you sit down and you try and play it, you have to craft a sound before you get to that point where you can actually play it. And I didn't think that this could be done. This merging of that approach into the sheer sonic breadth and amazing sounds that you can get out of modern synthesizers. But old Vlad has done it, and he's done it wonderfully. Should you get one? I don't know. That's up to you. I don't know what you will get from it, but I can tell you that it will be new and individual and exciting and very likely different to everything else in your setup. It's incredible. It really is. I'm really, really, really glad I have it, and I feel very, very lucky to have one. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking until the end. If you like this video, please do like, subscribe, share, and do all that YouTubey crap. If you want to get even more chatty though, Nevermore has a forum, link in the description. You can go and find a bunch of like-minded people and talk about everything from Eurorack setups to slam death metal. Get chatty. I'll see you next time.